even just recognizing that you have 100% of your book and 15% of somebody else's. And so you're always going to see the negative about your situation. You're not always going to see the negative of other people's situation. Hello.
Welcome.
Or welcome back
to the Womanly Podcast,
where we embrace womanhood in its entirety. From the hard and awkward conversations
to the silly and embarrassing moments.
An effort to reclaim and redefine what it means to be womanly in this crazy, wacky world. I'm Delana, the neutral one.
I'm Katie, the morbid one.
And I'm Madeline, the other one. And we're so excited that you've joined us today because there's room for you at our table.
So, grab your favorite drink and let's have a conversation.
What are you ladies drinking tonight?
I have a tea from What a BZ. For our non-Texas people, that's Whataburger. Well, I guess it's not non-Texas anymore because Whataburger is all over the place now.
Oh, yeah.
Those of us who really love Whataburger like to be stupid and call it What a BZ. So
Whataburger. I've never heard that before, actually.
You'll probably never hear it again.
Okay.
It might just be a me thing. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm drinking a root beer, courtesy of Delana. Thank you.
Katie came in and she was like, "What do you have for me, Delana?" And I was like, I got a little flustered because I did not prepare a drink for them.
She said, "Do you want margarita?"
And I was like, "You want like a margarita, like drink?"
And I'm
like,
sitting in the background
"No."
going, "You offering?"
Oh, did you?
No,
want
I'm
me?
fine.
Oh, okay.
I'm fine.
I have water and a Coke.
Nice.
Okay, so every week we like to ask each other how we're doing in a creative way. So for this week, my question for you guys is, how do you feel about your week so far? And when I say week, I mean past 7 days.
It's been very busy for me. I feel pretty good about it though. I mean, it's been really productive. I've been working on moving and in the middle of the best part of that, which is everything is in the place and it just needs to be unpacked. So but that's been busy and crazy, but good at the same time. And yeah, feel pretty good about the last week. Just looking forward to having a chance to breathe and sleep a bit more. It's been a lot of weeks on end of just crazy busyness.
Yeah, I feel good about my week. I just came home from vacation and it was so nice. We were in the mountains of New Mexico. And yeah, it's been good. I feel good about it.
Good.
Nice.
What about you, Delana?
I'm medium rare over here.
Like medium rare is where you want to be.
I guess so. It doesn't feel like it. I just have like some things that I can't talk about publicly going on behind the scenes with work. So it's just like big changes and I just don't know how to feel about them, and feels like my entire life is changing, but it's like in a forcing my hand type of way, you know? And so I don't know how to feel about it. And yeah. And obviously not my entire life is changing. My entire work life is changing.
Which is a large part of your life.
A large part of, 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
Of your life. So
40 plus. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just, that's where I am. And everything will work out how it's supposed to work out. I have full faith in that. But it's just everything's kind of up in the air right now. And that's not the most thrilling place to be.
It's all going to be fine.
Yeah, it will be fine. I just have to keep moving forward one step at a time.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
So
what are we talking about this week?
We're talking about comparison.
Dang.
A big one.
Sad
nice
trombone.
lighthearted episode.
Right? It's going to be great, guys.
Yeah.
At least we're all on the same page for this one. Like,
yeah.
We know that what we have to say about it is going to be, it's going to be felt by everybody at this table and those who are not physically at the table, but welcome nonetheless. So I think Katie's going to be our mediator.
Yeah, bring it on
for this
Katie.
conversation.
Yeah.
What do you have
I'm
for us?
terrified, and I feel like this is going to be a good episode for me in my emotional state.
Oh,
right now.
for sure. I think it's going to be a heavy topic, but it's a needed one.
Yeah.
Like it's something that we all experience to different degrees and in different ways, but
yeah.
maybe not something that we are comfortable or excited to talk about. So,
Right.
which means that we should more.
Exactly.
So we'll take
So
that
true.
bullet for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, why do we compare ourselves to others?
Why?
Why not?
It's a good answer.
That is a good answer.
Part of me wants to go to the science behind it. Like there's a biological, not need, but it's obviously it's ingrained in us on a biological level where it's like we can't help but do it because it means that we're giving ourselves the opportunity to either grow or even just like find our place in the chaotic
Yeah.
mess of what this world is. And if you believe in the science of natural selection and all of that and evolution, even just like not even from a grand scale of like evolution, but even on a molecular scale of like this is how you adapt, I think comparison is a necessary component of that. And I think even to an extent comparison can be a healthy thing, but I think with a lot of things we just take it way too far. So I think why we do it is that there is a biological necessity behind it in order to grow and adapt and make sure that we're surviving and improving ourselves and whatever else. But like with most things, we just take it way too far.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we're gluttons for punishment too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that humans we just have a herd mentality. And so, we're always trying to find our role, to your point. But also like, there's like this inherent need to be like, where do I belong? And, we compare ourselves to others because that's like our herd, right? And so it's like, what should I be where they are? Should I look the same as them? Should I look different from them? Should I, all those little things.
It is almost as if we just automatically assume there's some sort of hierarchy that's happening.
For sure.
And so you compare yourself to those who you perceive as being less than you
Yeah.
to a degree so that you can place yourself further up that hierarchy until you get to a point where you see the people that you perceive as being higher than you.
Yeah.
And then that knocks you down a few rungs. And then you're just kind of like, I think you eventually get to a point where as you're trying to place yourself in that hierarchy or on that pyramid, you kind of just shift 5 or 10 spaces back up and down and up and down.
Yeah.
When in reality, it's not a pyramid, it's not a hierarchy, it's just a straight line. And everybody has their own straight line that they're doing this on throughout life. We just look at it also differently because we like to think, I think again, it goes back to that natural selection, that need to survive, that we have a competitive edge to the way we view other people because in order to feel as though we're safe and secure and like what we are doing, like we are doing what we can to survive and be good, we have to then compare ourselves to how other people are faring in that same battle. What about you? Why do you think we compare ourselves?
Oh, the comparison trap is rough. I feel like comparison starts from such a young age. I know for me it started at a really young age, even like comparing like other kids' toys and like they have that, and I don't have that, or it wasn't physical until much later.
So you think it's taught? You think the reason why we do it is basically because it's taught?
I think so, because influence too. Like I just feel like it's born in us. it's something that is always going to be there. And I mean, it's always going to be there. So all you can do is cope with it and find good ways to cope with it. Because I feel like it's one of those things that unfortunately is just embedded in us as human beings.
I think there's definitely
why we do it. I mean,
well, I
could be scientific.
I think there's a spiritual aspect to it too, in that if you're somebody who believes in the Bible and has faith and believes that there is evil and good, and there are evil and good forces in this world, whatever that looks like in your worldview, I think what goes into this for us, the three of us who believe in the Bible, that there's a evil component in that we believe we're made in the image of God, and that he created us and he loves us.
He created us equally.
Yeah, all of us equally. And that there is an evil force attempting to
destroy our image of ourselves.
Try to make us believe that we are not worthy of or loved or whatever else. And so I think there's that trap there on a spiritual level that plays into it as well. Especially, I mean, if you're somebody who believes in those things like we do, then I think that's a very fair thing to enter into this conversation. If you don't, then that's fine. You don't have to think about it that way. But
yeah, I do think that I also think that comparison is there kind of like your inner self critic, where it's like it's telling you something about the desires of your heart, whether that's negative or positive, like whether it's telling you like, hey, you're really valuing maybe money way more than you should be, versus just being happy for a friend that they make more money than you or something like that, or it could be highlighting something really good. Like if you're jealous of somebody because they got a job in like a position that like you would dream of, then cool. Those are some desires of your hearts that
go after it.
Go after it. Like follow those desires. Like, why is this here? And don't just sit in that jealousy forever, but go after what that's trying to tell you. So I think that, we do have to live with it, to your point, but I think that it's telling us so much more than just you're a loser. Like it's calling to more.
There's definitely good. I think it can be a force for good.
Yeah.
And I think on certain levels it is a good thing. But like I mentioned already, I just think we take it way too far and we let it be something that's so destructive. Because I think that there are people out there, and I even in a previous episode I even said like, oh, I don't struggle with it that much, and then we went further in the conversation. I was like, actually, now that you put that spin on it, I kind of so I think that there are people who don't necessarily struggle with comparison as bad as others might, and I think that there are people who struggle equally. It just their struggles look so different from the person next to them. So I think it's going to be really unique to see how each of us, the three of us, or Katie and then this one person, me and Delana, one singular human being in mind and spirit, tend to handle these things. So it'll even just be interesting to see how you and I differ.
Yeah. There was something I was going to say to something that you said. Oh, I was going to say, I think that we only take it too far whenever we don't recognize it for what it actually is, which is calling to something else, like highlighting like, hey, you got a really poor desire here that you need to address why you desire money so much or whatever it is. Or whenever you don't look at that and be like, wow, my heart is really craving something and I need to go after this thing that it's craving. I think we only take it too far whenever we don't press into it in that way,
dig deeper. I get it. I think we can get to a point too whenever there is a deeper, like what you're basically saying is that the act of comparing yourself to others is highlighting a need or a desire, and then what you do instead of pressing deeper into it to identify what that need or desire is, you are instead throwing yourself a pity party because you don't automatically have that same thing that somebody else has.
Right, exactly.
That you need and desire. for
Yeah.
whatever reason.
Yeah.
Like maybe you're looking at somebody who's making so much more money than you, and you're comparing your current situation to theirs. And whenever you start digging into it, it's not so much that you actually really want all that money in the
Mhm.
world. It's just that you want security. And then how do you
Yeah.
go about getting that security? Can you get it a different way than
Mhm.
what? And then maybe even just recognizing that even if you have all the money in the world, that doesn't make you feel secure.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there are other levels. You can't just take it at face value and then continue spiraling with it and throwing yourself a pity party.
Yeah.
That's where the trouble enters.
The comparison game going along with money specifically is really sad. When people literally go into debt and bankruptcy over trying to compete with, say, your neighbor.
Materialistic way,
Because someone, has a bunch of money, and then that neighbor feels like they might need to compete.
Yeah.
How sad and empty is that?
Mhm.
Then, sure, you have like a nice looking house, or whatever,
Mhm.
but then you're literally broke. All
Yeah.
for what?
Right.
All for what?
Right.
I think it's so sad, the way that we lose our financial security over trying to keep up with others around us,
Yep.
I've definitely fallen into that trap.
Mhm.
Like, that's one of the reasons I got off social media, is because, there's literally just stuff at your fingertips. It's like Instagram's like, you need this. Like,
yeah.
all the influences are wearing this,
Yeah.
and it's like, why put myself, like, why dangle, like, why let that be dangled in front of my face when it's literally means nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and even you talk about it financially, but I think even you remove essentially the tangential part of this, where it's like your metaphorical neighbor, right? So like, instead of it being one house versus the other house, it's you as a human being versus the other human being. Like, you may doll yourself up, you may present yourself in a certain way in order to compete with what you perceive the other person is doing, but you're just as bankrupt on the inside as you would in that situation that you mentioned, where it's somebody spending lots of money to try to keep up. You're still spending so much of your energy and efforts and emotions and resources and stuff to try to do that in less tangible ways whenever you're comparing yourself with the people around you, that you end up being just as bankrupt on the inside as you would be if you were spending actual monetary resources.
Yeah.
And the whole point I hope that we can get to today is try to identify ways that you avoid emotionally and mentally and energy wise bankrupting yourself in this horrible trap that comparison is.
Yeah. Amen. How are you guys aware of your triggers, and how do you avoid them? How do you stay aware of your triggers, and then how do you combat those?
For me, recently, in the last handful of years, I've recognized that I'm a lot more likely to fall into a comparison mindset whenever I'm around other people who fall into it. And not so much like people who do it internally and like keep it really internal. I'm talking about people who like show jealousy or show like competitiveness or whatever way their internal comparison manifests itself on the outside. Whenever like somebody internalizes those things and it stays internal, I don't usually feed off of that. But whenever there's somebody around me who, you're at the pool with them and they point out, oh my gosh, she's got a perfect body or whatever. And they're making those comments, and it's like, it's not internal anymore. Now it's being thrown out into the world, and other women around you are hearing it, or other people around you are hearing it. By the way, men are not immune to this. We can just speak from the female perspective, but I do a lot worse around people that are making it an external thing. Like it is so, they can't even contain it anymore because it's such a big deal to them. At the end of the day, it's all destructive. But when I'm around somebody who externalizes, if that's even a word, their struggle with comparison in a way that makes them feel less than, I start struggling with that factor. So I try really hard, if I can, to not be in that space because I recognize that not being in it, I don't really struggle with it too much. And then at that point, I can focus on what I naturally do and try to reshape my mind in those circumstances, because what I'm doing in those circumstances naturally in my own self aren't good either. But whenever I have all of that internally that's natural to me, and then I introduce somebody else's struggles where they're no longer internalizing it and making it vocal and a big issue for everybody, I just spiral and it gets really bad really quick. So that's my number one trigger, is just recognizing that there are people who struggle with it in a different way than I do, and who will ultimately make it harder for me to focus on the ways that I struggle with it in a way that I can remedy my situation.
My main triggers are when somebody somebody of the same age seemingly is like better off than me financially or like career wise. That's definitely a big trigger for me, where I'll be like, if they're doing what I want to do, then I'll be like, well, what's so special about them?
Yeah.
What did they do that I don't have? Like what, I could do that job better than they could. Why did they get that opportunity? Blah, 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 blah. And it's so selfish. And so, I don't really know like what really helped me identify the issue, other than I just started to feel really unhappy all of the time. And then this little voice came into my head and it was like, what is so wrong with you that you can't just be happy for your friends? Like, you just can't be happy for somebody else, whether they're your friend or not. Maybe they're just a random person on the internet that is doing what you want to do or whatever, that they earned that opportunity just as much as you would have if you got that same opportunity, and everything in between. Like, I just realized that I have an incredible ability to be like, well, I deserve the same thing, like very entitled, and whenever I'm comparing myself to other people. And so I just try to regularly catch myself in that and just be like, dude, it's awesome that they got that opportunity. Like, it's awesome that they have that, and you've got a different plan. Like, you either, whether that's you actually have a different plan that you're thinking of, or like God's got a different plan for you, like it's where you are right now is exactly where you're supposed to be. And that's just like the end of it, and actually coming to peace with that. Other than that, I don't think I really struggle with a ton of comparison outside of, I guess sometimes I compare my relationship to other relationships. And I think that gets real toxic real fast. That is like dangerous. One of the worst traps that I feel like you can fall into, and will be so easy to make you so nitpicky about your relationship and stuff like that. And so that's one thing that I have also caught myself in, is just kind of like, if I ever catch myself like comparing to other dynamics in relationships and stuff like that, I'll just be like, okay, now that you did that, you have to run down the list of all the things that you love about your relationship.
Yeah. It's so hard too, because, and that even mentioning that is like, see, what dynamics do you see in that relationship? What dynamics do you not see?
I know, exactly.
Like, that's the whole other side of this with comparison, is
what
that
you don't see.
Yeah, is what you don't see. Like, as much as in social media is bad about this, because you just see the highlight reel, you are comparing your whole mess, the whole 360, 100% of it to 15% of what you see in other people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a fair comparison on either side. You're not treating them fairly. They're not getting a fair shake. You're not getting a fair shake. And I think whenever you talked about earlier pressing into it and trying to see the need and desire, it's also recognizing that it's not a fair shake either way.
Mm-hmm.
You are taking your 100% against their 10, 15%
Yeah.
and trying to make that a fair thing. And you cannot do that. It is completely impossible to do that.
Yep.
So give yourself some grace, give other people some grace, and
Yeah.
recognize that that's a huge reality within this whole thing.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
how many relationships have you seen, like marriages or long-term relationships, where you're like, every time you see them, you're like, wow, they just look so happy together. They're just the perfect couple. And then they break up, and then you hear about how everything
Yes.
was inside, and you're like, oh God, I'm
Yeah.
not jealous of that at all.
No.
You know, like that's happened so many times. And that's the silly thing, you
Yeah.
know, is that like,
And we all hide that stuff, right?
yeah.
Like we all, even if you don't think that something's like all that bad,
Mm-hmm.
there's enough pressure and stuff on the outside coming in that you recognize, like, I don't really feel bad about this,
Yeah.
but I know a lot of people react negatively to it, so I'm going to keep it to myself.
Yeah.
Like we all have those things, and then we obviously have the things that go much deeper that are a lot
Yeah.
dirtier, and I mean, we all have it,
Yeah.
and we all keep it quiet. So like think
Well,
about
and
how much of your own stuff that you don't let the world see, and how
Yeah.
much of your own struggles and issues that you don't let the world see. And everybody's got that.
Yeah. Because I think with those like deeper, dirtier things, there's like so much context that has to be
Yes.
considered that is like there are situations.
And not just spatial, we're talking
Right.
about generational as well.
Yeah. And just so many things that it's just like, there's so many layers that if I shared this, like we'd have to have a 3-hour long conversation just for you to understand how it even got there.
Yeah.
You know, and
I haven't even gone to therapy enough to totally understand it myself.
I know,
Right?
yeah, and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think that we do have to give ourselves a lot more credit and like the hardships that we navigate in our own relationships, and give other people a lot more credit that they're navigating hardships in their relationships too.
Yeah.
You know,
You just don't see them.
You just don't see them, and
it's not yours to see.
and I think it's just, if you, even in that moment, whether it's, you know, I think it's important to remember that you're not getting the whole picture, but then also like, I think of certain, like one part of a dynamic of a relationship that I'm like, oh, that's so cute. That's so sweet that they do that. I wish we did that more, you know? But then I think about all the things that the way that Sam and I talk to each other, the things that we do together, these like, for example, Sam and I talk business together all the time. Like we are just serial entrepreneurs. Like we just talk business and money all the time, and it lights our fire. It's like one of the things about our relationship that we're just like, I love that I can talk to you. We can get like googly eyes over each other about that, which sounds funny, but, but that's like one of the things where it's like, I'll see another couple that maybe goes on more dates than we do or something like that. And I'm like, oh, that's so cute and romantic. We should do more dates. Like, why don't we do that? You know, like, why doesn't Sam plan more dates for me or whatever? And it's like, but they don't have this other part of the relationship that I know of, you know, they don't have this other part of the relationship that if I didn't have that, I would like super miss out on, you know, like that's actually way more important to me than, you know, whatever the alternative is. And so, I think you also have to remind yourself of like what you do have. Like it's so easy to poke at all of the things that it's just like, well, we don't have that, and that may be true even. But
would you trade what you do have in order to have that?
Yeah, exactly.
And if you would, I think you just need to find a different relationship.
Yeah.
That's yours. Like I think that you can get to a point within all of this where you are comparing, and we're talking about the relationship aspect of this a lot, but again, it comes back to that fact that if you, it's exposing needs and desires of your heart.
Yeah.
And if you realize like, oh yes, this is something that I really need or something that I desire that is not happening in my life through my relationship or through my job or whatever else, and you have the ability to do something about it, and it's that important to you, do something about it.
Yeah.
Don't just sit there with that recognized desire and need and do nothing, and then just continue to be rotten and upset about the fact that you don't have it whenever you have every tool that you need to do something about it. Maybe you don't have every tool that you need, but you can at least start the process with what you do have. That is, I think, a huge part of this, because a lot of times whenever comparing yourself, like body wise, if I'm going to compare myself to somebody who is like perfect shape, like they didn't get there by doing nothing.
Yeah.
I could easily get there. Well, not easily, but I could also work to get to that spot just as hard as they have worked to get to that spot.
Yeah.
I have an able body. I have access to gyms or to the great outdoors, and I could get started on that journey today. And if I don't do that and I just sit in my chair and be sorry for myself about the fact that this other person who has worked their literal ass off to get to where they're at, how they look compared to how I look, not doing that same routine as they are, that's not going to help anything.
Right.
That's not going to help anything.
To your point, like if you're seeing these things and it's highlighting a desire of your heart, like, yeah, for example, the example that I gave was that, you know, Sam and I in our relationship, we don't like have a lot of the mushy gushy like romantic stuff. And I found myself missing that in our relationship. And guess what? We talked about it. We're working on it. We're going on more dates because of it. You know what I'm saying? Like there are absolutely times that you can see things and be like, hey, I think that would be good for us to maybe consider as well, you know?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be something that you have to just sit with and not be happy with. There's a lot of things that you can do something about.
Yeah.
You know, especially when it's something as simple as romancing each other, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't realize that I was going to be so passionate about that question, but what about you, Katie?
Yeah, Katie, did you want to add?
Did you have any thoughts, or did we cover all of it?
Yeah.
Oh, man. No, I enjoyed hearing y'all's thoughts. We are all so, well, I'm so different than you guys. I'll bring
the collective.
I'll bring some diversity to the table. Yeah, so a big trigger of mine for several years has been social media, as you know. And I just haven't found I never found a healthy way to engage myself in social media. It was just way more mentally and emotionally draining than it was fun.
Yeah.
And so, how many months ago was that? 2.5 months ago?
It's been several, yeah.
Yeah.
I deleted my Instagram, and
which is huge, by the way.
It has changed my life, but it's to say that it's changed my perspective would be a lie, because I'm still very much working on that. And while I'm not on social media as much, I mean by being on Facebook.
Facebook's different though.
It's a little different.
Facebook sucks. It's a less enjoyable place to be, so I think it's easy to like
it's
not
easier.
get addicted.
It's at this point now where like Facebook, nobody does a highlight reel. They're just spewing all their anger.
Yeah, literally that's what it is. It's political opinions.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
I'll lighten it up on my reel. I'm just gonna post like, nature.
Yeah.
But
on Facebook you're not bombarded by people's best.
Exactly.
Quote unquote best.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I noticed that was a huge trigger of mine and a huge emotional barrier, and it just sucked a lot out of me. So I decided to delete that app inevitably. I might not ever go back permanently. To say I haven't gone back at least once would be a lie. I've definitely gone back and been like, oh, I do not miss this feeling.
Yeah.
Because
I sent you links on Instagram.
yes. And so even though I don't have the app, it still allows you to explore Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll like type in my favorite, the other day I typed in like a few of my favorite influencers to see like what they were up to.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't miss the feeling of like instant comparison and like the instant just emptiness of social media. And so I got off pretty quick, but
I think there's like a whole lot of people who are gonna fully completely understand where you're coming from with that.
Yeah.
If you're struggling with the decision to get off social media, do it. Like, I don't care if you've got 1 million followers. Nobody needs you as bad as you need yourself.
Yeah.
Like,
sister. And your family needs your family, your friends, your spouses. They all need you way more than the 1 million followers that you have on your Instagram or whatever it is. 3,000 followers, 900 followers. They don't need you. So I noticed that was a huge trigger for me. And so I just got it out of my life. Do you mind if I ask? I mean, is it just seeing where other people are at in their life? Is that an issue, or is it just like every single aspect of it that you're comparing your body to others, you're comparing where you're at in life to others? What aspect of social media specifically is?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's interesting. I really thought I didn't compare my body to others until I got off social media.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
And now I realize how toxic my mindset was around my body.
Mm.
And so I would say it's a little bit of everything. Body comparison, lifestyle comparison, life stage comparison. All of it is very triggering for me.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's one and specific one that's like worse than the other. But they're all of it is just very toxic.
Well, and it's all present too. That's why I asked, because and I've talked about this before in other episodes, is that I don't tend to have an issue with social media. I don't say that from a place of pride or anything. I actually think in some way I have an unhealthy relationship with it, because I can't have just like a normal, happy, healthy, engaged with this kind of relationship with it, because most of the time I really hate it, and I dread the fact that I have to be on it, and I don't have to be on it, but in some ways you feel like you have to, because that's how people interact and that's how people keep up with one another. And I enjoy certain aspects of it, but there's so many aspects about it that I don't enjoy, that I don't find it too hard to not engage. And so for me, my experience on social media probably looks very different from what yours has looked like, because I tend to not want to be on it. I don't follow a lot of people. I don't like a lot of people following me. I keep it very private. And so I almost have my own little bubble that I've curated that feels safe. Anyway, I just wanted to ask that clarifying question, because I've, of course, everybody experiences comparison on social media to some degree.
It's hard because some of you out there who do have a lot of followers might feel stuck. You might feel like you don't want to disappoint your 1 million followers by disappearing off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
When that literally might be your saving grace.
Yeah.
I do think that people can have a healthy relationship with social media.
Sure, I do too.
Because for me, for example, I used to feel like I couldn't have a healthy relationship, but now I feel like so many other things have happened in my life that have made me like realize that like, oh my gosh, life is so much bigger. Social media feels so insignificant to me.
I agree.
So
you
small.
know, that like I can get on it and get off of it whenever I want to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I can see people doing better than me, or I can see people who are quote unquote prettier than me or more fit than me or whatever. And still be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Like, okay, that's their life. This is mine, you know, and not really give too many thoughts about it. You know, if I'm in a place where I'm like already feeling really insignificant or insecure, then I know that I probably need to pace myself a little bit more or just stay off of social media altogether.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I don't really feel like it's feeding a lot of comparison anymore in my life.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, it's a tangled web, all of this.
Well, I just have one more question for us, and
Okay.
I'm wondering, how can we unlock the power of contentment?
Ooh.
How do we achieve that? I don't know. Maybe achieve not the right word, because I think it's an ongoing
It is ongoing.
goal, but
You mean one day we don't just like reach ultimate contentment and we're just like glowing with like
self-actualization is a farce.
Self-actualization.
Yeah, it's a
I
farce.
think that might be when we go to heaven.
Yeah.
But I have one word for us: gratitude.
Ooh.
Gratitude is it is contentment, I feel like.
Or it's just putting your gratitude as an attitude of contentment. It's like,
yes.
even if it's not fully 100% being content, you're at least putting yourself in the position of saying, you know what, this is what I have. I'm thankful for this, and I can be happy with it just being what it is.
It leads to contentment.
I think my one word is perspective. So we got gratitude and
I love
perspective.
that.
I think perspective we've talked about tonight, even just recognizing that you have 100% of your book and 15% of somebody else's. And so you're always going to see the negative about your situation. You're not always going to see the negative of other people's situation. And if you're anything like me, you may see a lot of your positive and you may only see like 15% of their negative. You don't see all their positive. I know that I sound like such an asshole saying that, but I want to be real, because these are things that I struggle with, and I can't be the only one who feels that way about certain things. So it's perspective. It's all about recognizing that you're going to see your 100% picture, and you're never going to see the full picture for anybody else, whether you're focusing on the positive or the negative. So whenever you're putting yourself in that mindset and reminding of yourself of that, then I think it unlocks a whole other level to it in order for you to shift your perspective and bring it back to what you do have, and recognizing that you can have grace for yourself and have grace for others and get back to that gratitude attitude.
I love that.
I feel like my thing is maybe a bit of an odd response to this.
Love it.
Give it.
But I think that a lot of people who struggle with a lot of comparison in their life need to be busier. Like that if you are so idle that you have like this time to just mull over these things, and I don't want this to come across as like, you know, if you're stuck on something that you're doing something wrong, because that's not what I mean by these words at all. But a lot of the people that just go in these patterns and these loops, like I said, like the biggest thing that helped me with my relationship with social media was realizing how big life was outside of it, and how much more I had going on that was so much more important than what happens on this tiny screen. And I got really busy doing those things. I got busy grieving. I got busy pursuing dreams. I got busy like building relationships and stuff like that. That if your world is so small right now that this tiny little box becomes so big in your life, that I think you need to open up your world a little bit more. And because the biggest people that I see like just go in these circles, and this is just like tormented, and that cause the most destruction in other people's lives are the most bored people.
Yeah.
They just don't have a lot going on in their own lives, and which is very sad, but is easily in their hands to fix as well.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't recognize the issue. So I hope that comes off with the love and grace that is intended.
Your word is priorities.
Yeah, I think that's a good way.
Yeah. So
put
it's I guess our full answer is gratitude, priorities, perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I would also add celebrate the small moments in your everyday, quote unquote mundane life. Celebrate the people who have accomplished a really big thing or a small thing, and celebrate the accomplishments that you do too.
Mm-hmm.
When your perspective changes and you begin to celebrate other people, things happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you are suddenly not thinking about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking about the other people and how excited, like you're sharing your excitement with them and rejoicing with them. Romans 12:15 says, rejoice with those who rejoice. So don't feel like you're losing just because someone else is winning.
I guess my last thing that I'll add too, because everything that we're saying, it sounds so easy. Like whenever you put it out there in words like that,
it's not.
It's not
it's
easy.
Practice.
It's practice.
So hard.
It is a daily exercise. It's I mean, we talk about in the church and in the Bible, we talk about how repentance is one thing, but basically what it means is it's a daily changing of your mind. And I think that goes for so much, that it's like, if you are trying to change anything about yourself, it is a daily exercise. It is, and it's, some days are going to go better than others, but you get better at it the more you do it. So if you catch yourself in comparison, the more you catch yourself, the easier it will be to get to catch yourself. The more you change your perspective, the easier it will be to stay in that right perspective.
Yeah.
The more you prioritize and actually act on those priorities, the more it's going to be like, the easier it's going to be to get those priorities right the first time. And the more you celebrate, the easier it will be to celebrate.
And I have good news. The hardest part is starting.
Yep.
Yeah, it's true.
Because after that, at least you've started. And you're able to work from there up.
Yeah.
And it only gets better.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. And if you feel like maybe like the first step is like getting off of social media, that could very well be it. But try to keep in mind that it's really hard to get rid of something without giving yourself something else. So like, if you're going to quit social media, what are you going to replace? You're going to pick up a hobby? You're going to start painting? You're going to start finally watching that show that you've told yourself you're going to start watching? Like, what are you going to do instead so that I don't know, like, give yourself,
just
I mean, sometimes
numb the sting a little.
Yeah, but also like sometimes I think a lot of times you just feel like, what do I do? Like empty hands. You're like, I don't know what to do with myself now.
Yeah.
I think you can even start smaller than that, because I think social media is definitely a huge trigger for everybody.
Yeah.
But who on social media is causing you issues, and you should unfollow them.
Yeah.
Like you should.
Yeah.
And it's nothing to do with them. Like they may be totally fine human beings.
Yeah.
But it is causing something harsh in you, and you can unfollow them. And especially if it's an influencer. I promise you, they're not going to notice.
You have
and
complete
you may
power.
miss seeing their stuff, and that's okay. But I think to some extent we get a little bit addicted to the negative feelings.
Yeah.
We get a little bit addicted to it. But you just have to remove it. Even if you block them so they don't show up anymore, whatever it looks like. You
just
can
mute them.
Yeah, mute them.
Yeah, like if it's maybe somebody that you know and you don't want, you feel like you could start drama if they found out you unfollowed them, just mute them.
Yeah.
They're not going to get notified.
Just remove it from your daily experience so that you're not feeling those feelings so often. And if you're finding that it doesn't help in the grand scheme of things, and the next step would be to get rid of social media, then at that point you've already started breaking up with it. You've already started breaking up with harsh feelings and all of that it's giving you, and it will be easier for you at that point to get rid of all of it in general. So I think that's I'm the kind of person that I get rid of it entirely. I got rid of my Twitter recently because I was like, there's nothing good on here anymore. And I have not missed it since. So there, just take it easy if you need to. Take it slow, and that's totally fine. But definitely try to figure out exactly what it is that's causing you those issues. And if it's certain accounts that you're following, just get them out of your everyday experience. And then if it's the app in general, just get rid of the app, and you'll be better for it.
And sometimes you do need to do something extreme. I've had to make take extreme measures in my life if I felt like, well, I just didn't know what to do, and I just needed to make space in my life to let my heart be not distracted, to figure out what it wanted. Then maybe an extreme measure is also, it's totally up to you. Ask yourself those questions.
Cold turkey works for some people. It worked for me.
Katie.
But a slower burn might be the way to go for you. It just, everyone's different.
Just take a step. That's the biggest thing, is that figure out what it is, take a step, and then if that's the only step you need to take, great. But if there's more,
be proud of yourself.
Take more. Yeah, celebrate each step that you take. Even if it's a tiny one, even if it feels like in the long run it may be a step backwards. Any step that you're making with the intention of trying to heal yourself from this is a progressive step.
Any step in doing that is huge.
Yeah. So what are y'all looking forward to this week?
My life getting sorted out, hopefully.
Yeah. That'd be good.
That's literally all consuming right now. So that's what number one thing I'm looking forward to.
Nice. I'm going to Washington State this weekend, or for 5-ish days. I'm very excited to get away. I mean, I guess the Texas heat has kind of broken a little bit for us recently with all the rain, but I'm excited to get some of that Pacific Northwest. That'll be nice.
I'm excited about turning 30.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
This weekend
30, flirty, and thriving.
I've got some fun plans.
I got some cute new boots to wear.
I got some cute new Western boots to wear.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I'm super excited. It's not my first rodeo, but
it's
been a while.
I bought my first pair of cowboy boots this year.
Yeah,
and
that's
I grew
exciting.
up in Texas, as you know.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
Yeah,
Yeah, but you were a little scene girl in high school.
Oh, I totally was. Yeah.
But yes, I'm looking forward to that.
Against cowboy boots for a long time. Sorry. Go ahead.
Man, so shout out to Tacovas for my dream Western boots for my 30th birthday. And we're just going to ring it in. I'm not scared, guys.
You shouldn't be.
It's going to be great.
Oh, it's going to be amazing.
The best years are ahead of us.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Please. Let us all hope.
Please let it be better from here.
All right. Thanks so much for hanging out with us again for this week's episode of the Womanly Podcast. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media to hang out with us in between episodes and see pieces of our conversations that we don't get to include in these episodes, plus all of our bloopery humanness. We're on Instagram at Womanly Pod and TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter at Womanly Podcast. We hope to hang out with you more there. Have a super womanly week.